The St. Clair River, Lake St. Clair, and the Detroit River, also known as the Huron-Erie Corridor, are the international waters that connect Lake Huron to Lake Erie. Environmental changes in the corridor over time have resulted in a loss of habitat for fish and other organisms. This video is focusing on the successful St. Clair River Fish Habitat Restoration Project and the science and collaboration that made it a success.
We were so surprised that lake sturgeon found the habitat and were spawning on it even though it wasn't completely constructed. We wanted to make sure that the materials we used were suitable for fish spawning. We have been perfecting the habitat materials and determined that a certain size and shape of rock was important to maximize the space between the rocks. If there's too much space, the eggs could be washed out by the water. But if the spaces are too small, the eggs would not be adequately protected from fish and other organisms. The project team developed a plan and methods to build new spawning habitat to increase lake sturgeon, lake whitefish, walleye, and other native fish populations. We learned that water flow, water depth, and water temperature were all important in the placement of a spawning reef. Another important factor is the available nursery habitat downstream that is crucial for the survival of young fish produced on the spawning reefs. One of the most important components of these habitat restoration projects is the monitoring that we do before and after the reef is constructed. In this way, we know whether any fish were there using the area before we construct the reef, and we can document the success of our spawning habitat projects. This video shows that there were lake sturgeon eggs among the rocks and adult lake sturgeon in the area before the construction was even complete.
Human alterations in the system in the late 19th and early 20th century resulted in many changes. One of the largest was the result of widening and deepening for commercial navigation. In the Detroit River alone, a major modification in the lower river resulted in the removal of over 300 million cubic meters of limestone rock and other material from the bottom of the river. The result was a dramatic reduction of fish populations throughout the entire Huron-Erie corridor. In 2004, a collaborative group of university, government, industry, and non-governmental organizations established the Huron-Erie Corridor Initiative. The first two projects, one at Belle Isle in the Detroit River, the other at Fighting Island, also in the Detroit River, but in the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, have significantly improved fish habitat. And we've seen fish responding to our latest project in the St. Clair Delta while it was under construction. Fish habitat restoration is a key part of US EPA's strategy to restore impaired beneficial uses in the system. These restoration efforts will provide cultural and economic benefits, bolster commercial and sport fishing, and contribute to a higher quality of life for the people living in the corridor. All of these projects are part of our long-term goal to replace some of the habitat that was removed 100 years ago to support commercial navigation. The next steps for the partnership are to choose the restoration sites based on this model and build on our past successes. This is science in action, and this is the kind of research project where we're not just performing research to learn about new things, but we're applying the results for the benefit of the larger community. Our approach in the Huron-Erie corridor is a potential model for success for other locations. We're making sure that our work builds on the science that has gone before, so we're learning and adapting as we move forward.
The Huron-Erie corridor is the epicenter of fish populations and fish habitat restoration in the central Great Lakes. The fish spawning habitat restoration successes in these connecting channels can have positive impacts on Lakes Erie and Huron, as well as the entire Great Lakes Basin. The Huron-Erie Corridor Initiative partners will continue to work together to manage, restore, enhance, and protect the living resources and their habitats in these connecting waterways.
Right, what we're doing at the moment is cutting out this rather mess for this rear wheel arch. It's quite rotten under here, as you can probably see. Common point on these Alpines. It crystallises everywhere. And you get a really bad wheel arch there. Also the spring hangers, as you can see, the main of it's quite solid. It's just the steel work around it that's corroded away. And also the rear wheel arch is totally gone. And where it joins to the inner, that's in the same sorry state. Actually comes away. You can see it's quite corroded. Here we are with some nice rust. As you can see, the middle chassis section is totally gone. The floors are quite rotten. I think most of this is fiberglass. Seems to be quite a common thing on Alpines, this. Coming up to the top, this is what we've repaired. The centrepiece has been done. The floor pan, rear floor pan, the spring hanger. This is quite a common place where they rust. That's been repaired, reboxed in. The inner sill's been done. And the front of the chassis has been done. That's another rusty point. It's been welded back onto the original. Now, this is a wing that eventually will be fitted to the car. It's just a guideline at the moment. See where we're working to, basically. So we've got the sill and things in. Give some idea of what it's going to look like eventually. That's one of the new panels. Quite an expensive hobby. These are some rear panels we have here for the wheel arch. In the back of the wheel arch panel to the back valance. And these are sort of similar things we fitted to my brother's Alpine. So we've had the same sort of problems on both cars.
This is a TR4 engine we've had for about 4 years in that corner over there, and the damp got into the manifold and seized one of the cylinders. But we managed to free that. It was only superficial rust that was on it. But now I think there's a problem with the big end shells. I can feel a knocking sound when I turn it. So I think we'll have to take the sump off next. That'll be another few weeks job. We've also done the chassis, which only took us about 3 weeks to do, which is on the floor here. We had all the bits all done up to start with, in boxes, and we just found all the bits and put them all back together again. And it's quite a struggle getting the springs on, that's the problem, without the proper tools. Especially the rear springs, where they work the opposite way around to a normal car. They've got to go upwards and not downwards. Although in another few weeks we'll probably have the engine and gearbox in, and then we can move it out and get the body shell from the wall, which is stood up over there. This car came from California originally, and the bodywork is very, very good actually. Just the floor pan wants changing, and that's the only problem we've got with it.